Mm, mm, mm. Oh, yeah. I'm with this, with me. I'm just gonna lay back and I'ma drop some smooth lyrics. So tune in 7 to 9:30 and don't be late. About to set it straight. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Word. I'm ready. Let's go. Ain't no half stepping, that's the name of the show. Yeah. Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah. Hunters talk sprinkle with a dash and humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call and we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With the flow in this show, bring the heat. Yeah. The word on the street with the Earl on the beat. We superb in the beat legacy online. 7 to 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepper with Marcus J, my brother. Yeah. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. Brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission before course. And listen up, the Marcus J tried to talk, ran it back. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission before course. And listen up, the Marcus J tried to talk. That's the name of the show. Yeah. Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah. Hunters talk sprinkle with a dash and humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you want to talk about, call and we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With the flow in this show, bring the heat. Yeah. The word on the street with the Earl on the beat. We superb in the beat legacy online. 7 to 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepper with Marcus J, my brother. Yeah. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. My brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission before course. And listen up, this Marcus J started to talk.
All right, y'all. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J is live. We are in the building. Ready to have an outstanding show. I am excited. John and Steph are excited. You should be excited. Why wouldn't you be? You about to rock with the coolest cats in town, on the internet. So the show we do is called Ain't No Half Step with Marcus J, and the show is live right now.
Yeah.
Think about that time. Think about that time again. Yeah.
Open your ears, strap on your thinking cap. Socially conscious talk that's entertaining with a dash of humor and the top sports stories of the week. It's time for Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J.
Sellers and Jordan. Jordan with 2 seconds to go. Puts it up and scores. The buzzer. Michael Jordan has won it for Chicago. Watch it. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. He hits one deep to right center. That ball is out of here. The Yankees win the pennant.
Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J is live. We appreciate y'all. Be down with us tonight on Facebook Live, on YouTube Live. Be down with us on future shows. And we appreciate any support that you are bestowing upon us. Like, share. Anytime you see us pop up in your subscriptions on Facebook Live and YouTube Live and you join us, share it. Let the world know that you're rocking with the flagship show of Legacy and That Radio. Ain't No Half Step with Marcus J. Shout out to my brother K-Dub. He is checking us out already. He's chucking the deuces right back to you, my brother. Let us shoot around the room introduce the usual suspects so that we can get to our agenda. Of course, this brother sits right across the table from me. He is my friend. He is John Rain. What's up, bro? What's up, man? John
Mark-
Rain.
Marcus Magnificent, keeping this the realest. How are you, sir?
That's always gonna be corny, but I'm always gonna do it. I'm gonna always do it.
I think it's the most befitting intro for you.
I think you just said it's okay for me to be corny. I think that's what he said.
No, that's not. It's okay for me to be corny when describing you
Okay.
when it's accurate.
Okay. Yeah. I like that too. My brother. Ain't no Steph Marcus J. Loud from NewDen Legacy in that radio sitting to my right. She is my right hand, our sister, Steph B. Yay. Hey, Steph.
Steph.
Hello, fellas.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm good. I'll be better as we move it along.
Yeah, I could.
You know,
I could dig
it's
it.
a ramp up.
It's a ramp up. Yeah, no, I could dig it. You got to get a running start.
Yes.
You get a running start.
Yes.
I could dig it. I could dig.
Monday is Monday.
Monday is Monday. Well, I tell you what, there's no reason for us to mess around with it. Y'all want to get right to it? Y'all want to get right to one? I got one that I didn't tell y'all about. I think I put it in the feed, but I know that we haven't talked about it. Well, actually, there's two things that I want to do. First, immediate reaction to the police being found not guilty in the Elijah McClain story. Now, just for perspective and just to let everybody remember what Elijah McClain's story was, that was the young man in was it Aurora, Colorado. He was killed by the police, and this was the one where I think they said that he was shot up with some sort of. I'm pulling up the story, y'all. But the main reason why I wanted to bring this up real quick was the fact that the police whose custody he was in were found to be not guilty. So I'm getting
They shot him up with ketamine, by the way.
Ketamine. All right. So I'm getting this article. I'm looking at it. This is KETV out of Omaha, and this says out of Colorado, the second Denver area police officer acquitted in the 2019 death of Elijah McClain, who was put in a neck hold and injected with ketamine after being stopped by police as he walked home from the convenience store. Always better to read it than to try to go off the top of your head. Remember that, everybody. Cite your sources. The jury found Aurora officer Nathan Woodyard not guilty of homicide and manslaughter following weeks-long trial in state district court. He had faced years in prison. We could read more. The only thing that I'm going to read after this, and then I'll have Steph respond to this first. The 23-year-old black man pleading words captured on the police body camera video, quote, "I'm an introvert and I'm different." I remember that. Steph, you up first. What do you think about the police officer being found to be not guilty?
What should I think? I mean, this is par for the course. I never thought a George Floyd verdict or a verdict of the men down in Georgia who killed the young black man who was running through their neighborhood. I never thought that was going to change anything in some massive, influential national way. But this kid, everything that they said, and everything that you saw there, this kid really seemed harmless. And the fact that they got away with murdering him, the fact that they also they made jokes about it afterward. There was no dignity associated with any of the situations surrounding Elijah's death. And I read what the DA said, that they believe it was the right verdict, not an easy one. I struggle with that.
Yeah.
The right verdict, not an easy one. Explain to me why it wasn't easy. If you can explain to me why it wasn't easy, truly, it's because it's connected to the fact that it's not the right verdict. I get it. You're a defense attorney. You've got to speak a certain way, defend your client and so on. But the body footage of this showed him many times trying to avoid engagement with the police. He wasn't intentionally engaging with them at all. It's amazing to me how many times the police create the interaction first and this person ends up dead because they were the aggressor, according to the police. It never makes sense to me. So I mean, what do I think about it? I think it's just par for the course of being Black and considered less than human in the United States.
John, what do you think about this? I got another thing that I'm gonna have us share with our listeners before we shift into Steph episodes. What you got?
What Steph just described is called the white way. All right. So I'm going to engage you. I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to be forceful. And if you do anything other than Edis Bridge activity, I'm going to beat you senseless. I'm going to beat you senseless one way or another. But if you do anything other than, just fall on your knees and accept your beating, even if you verbally, I'm going to say, oh, now I'm afraid of you. Now you're attacking me because I attacked you, but you have no right to attack me because I'm white. It's the white way. So now you have no right to defend yourself. But if you do, me defending myself is much more important than you. So I'm going to kill you to remind the others. Killing you isn't about killing you. Killing you is to remind all the others of what to expect so that they accept their mistreatment and beating and so on and so forth.
When I see this and in other cases like this, I always come away with one thing. If somebody die, somebody got to go to jail. It's that simple for me. Now, every single situation, we could talk about it. You know what I mean? But as a general rule, if I'm walking from the convenience store and but for my interaction with you, I would be alive, somebody got to go to jail for that. And the fact that you're a police officer doesn't move me. And there's so many cases. Like, you could be at the crib. You can ask both and John about that. You can ask Breonna Taylor about that. You know what I'm saying? They was both at the crib and they was both killed by police and nobody went to jail. You know what I'm saying? This next one that I'm going to pull up for y'all, I just saw this one recently. Perhaps you guys may have heard about this one, but I'm getting this one from Cable News Network. Y'all might know it as CNN. This is about a brother by the name of Dexter Wade, the family of a Mississippi man who was fatally struck by a Jackson Police Department cruiser in March, but who only found out about it 6 months later after he had been buried, once his body exhumed and independently autopsied for the Department of Justice to investigate. Dexter Wade was reported missing by his moms on March 14th. It doesn't say his mom's here in CNN, but she did not. I'm sorry, just quote. Hey, look, I paraphrase these joints, right? She
Legacy
ain't,
Network News.
you know what I'm saying?
His mom.
His mom's, right? She reported him missing on March 14th. She didn't find out that he was deceased until August 24th. The Jackson Police Department confirmed that Wade was struck by a department vehicle, claimed there was no ill intent in delaying the next of kin notification. Quote, while this is a very tragic and unfortunate accident, our investigation found no malicious intent by any Jackson police staff, the city of Jackson said in a statement. On March 5th, 2023, officers was dispatched to I-55 South, where there were reports of an accident involving a pedestrian. The victim died. However, officers were unable to identify him at the time. Days later, the coroner's office was able to identify the victim as Dexter Wade by way of medication found in his pocket. The statement from police reads, Jackson police said its efforts to notify Wade's family were stymied by outdated contact information. The police statement reads, quote, contact information for Mr. Wade was outdated, and neither the coroner's office nor investigating officers were able to make contact with Mr. Wade's family. The police acknowledged investigators failed to connect a missing persons report with Wade's death. The police statement reads, quote, Missing persons officers did not know that the pedestrian victim from March 5th was the same person reported missing March 14th. Our sincerest prayers and condolences go out to the Wade family in the death of their loved one. The Jackson police statement reads, Wade's mother, however, is dubious about that sincerity. I asked them for help. His mother, Better Stan Wade, said, time after time they told me they couldn't find nothing. If authorities knew his name from day one and I filed at day 14 that he was missing, all they had to do was say, Mr. Wade is down in the morgue. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump is representing the family, said last Monday when this article came out that he had planned to file a petition to have his body exhumed from the pauper's field where it had been buried. You got it first, John. You up first.
So, it's sad.
Let me get this shout out. My bad, John. Our brother James, VUU Panther. Good evening, family. The mighty Panthers on to the CIA AA championship. You got it, brother. We got that win against Virginia State on Saturday, 30-20. It's always good to kick their tail. So good to see you back in your home rocking with us, brother. My apology, John, for cutting you off. Continue your point.
Shout out. It's hard out here for a Panther.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I like what you did there.
So this thing has so many facets to it in there, how it ties into the last one. First and foremost, the names within the system that they have in that county, the computer should have flagged it. It should have flagged it. The name is the name. Click, click. Missing persons runs through. Like when they put the name in missing persons, anytime a name comes up, because they arrest people all the time. So if they arrested a person, if they processed a person anywhere, if they had to print them to identify him. They printed them, it should have popped up, missing person. They had to contact them. And again, if they really wanted to file them, they could have called child support because they found anybody. They would have found this. They would have found these people.
Nah,
but aside from that,
my bad. I thought you were rapping. My bad.
No. Aside from that, here's the major problem, and I found that out in moving from New York to Richmond, or the tri-state area to Richmond. Laws in different counties and states vary so significantly. So what we think of how these people should be prosecuted or charges brought before, there may not be a proper statute for that. And you can't call it, like when you read the opening statement, the other one, you said the police killed, they didn't kill him. They did something to him, and because of what he did, he succumbed to that. They did not kill. That's not kill. That's not murder. It's something that it's reckless endangerment. Maybe
that's actually one of the charges that they were acquitted of. That they were acquitted of.
Reckless endangerment, or involuntary manslaughter.
Yep, agreed.
Or unlawful death by whatever. Like New York has like 1 million ways you can get charged with killing somebody, and some counties don't. So they put on the books what they got. No, and a lot of times the DA knows that charge can't be proven, right? So that's why they take that charge. They do that because they know you can't prove it. So because you can't prove it, the jury or the judge, whoever is their hands are tied. It's like, yo, nah, you didn't prove that.
Yeah.
You didn't give me what I needed to get the conviction. So this is what happens.
I think there was a very simple and obvious cover up here because his body, his pill bottle was found near his body. So they didn't need to make all those phone calls. There was a prescription pill bottle found at the scene of the crime near his body. They knew who he was. They knew who he was almost immediately. They 24 hours when he was missing, at a 24-hour mark, his mother called. They knew who he was. They knew what had happened to him. He was there. They had him. They had a description of who he was. He had identifiers on his body. So right away, the conversation becomes, let's look at everyone who covered this up, everyone that had to be involved to cover this man's death up, from the coroner, who knew who he was based on the fact that the prescription pill bottle was right there on the scene of the crime, to of course, the officer that hit him, to the sheriff that oversees the deputies and knew about this. There was nowhere along the way where someone did not have to cooperate in order to hide this. And this is not the first thing out of Mississippi. A lot of things over the last 3 years have come out of there in relationship to, in regards to how the cops interact and engage with the public there. And it easily can also make you look at how they vote down there. The gerrymandering that has gone on there. When you start to look at things like this, we're at a stage now where we can't just be angry about the death. We definitely can be angry about the death, but we almost need to be galvanized by indignance at all of the other things that are allowing these things to happen. Again, what the political divide is, what the political setup is. All of these things come into hand. You vote for sheriff, you vote for deputies. I mean, you vote for sheriff, and then the deputies are going to be supported by whatever that sheriff's initiatives are. You don't show up and vote against a certain person, or your county is gerrymandered a certain way so that your vote doesn't really have the impact that it should. Now you have someone in position of power that will co-sign on the behaviors that occurred here. In a lot of towns, the primary coroner is appointed by that deputy or by the DA. It is just, it's scary to hear this story, because all of the things that have to happen in order for this woman to not know where her son was for a significant period of time, all of those things could happen anywhere with simple political machinations and maneuvering. And that's what makes this even scarier, is that any of us could be at risk if the politics are at play and if they happen a certain way.
The lie is so outrageous. It's so outrageous. Like, I'm glad you made the point about the pill bottle stuff, because that was the part that got me. Like, we are all of the age where we got prescriptions for something that we got to go down to the pharmacy and pick up our prescription. They know who we are. They know how to find us. Heaven knows they blow my phone up if I'm a day late picking up what they got down there waiting on me for me to go and get. I had to pick up a prescription today that was due Saturday. They called me Saturday and they called me yesterday. You know what I'm saying? So I know what it is with mine. Now, you mean to tell me that my pharmacy is that much more advanced than that guy's pharmacy? Like, they knew a phone number they could have called him at. If you know a phone number, there's usually an address attached to it. The pharmacy knows where you live. So there's no reason for this. They can say whatever they want to say. We can turn this into whatever kind of investigation we could turn this into. We can ask the Department of Justice to investigate and all this. All of it will be coming down from that would be punitive. We can just punish them for not doing the right thing here. But at the end of the day, they killed this dude. They ran him over with the car. And they said, oh, shit. What is we going to do? And it took them 6 months to figure it out. That's what happened. We know that's what happened. And they didn't even have the decency to tell this man's mama what it was. We getting the hit in social media. He's got a couple of things here. I'm going to lead with his salutation, and then I'm going to get to his comment. My best friend in the world, the pretty boy Damon, is checking us out.
What up, Dave?
He says, good evening, family. What's up to my brothers? And special good evening to you, Steph B. Peace and love. He continues, I'm sure if Dexter had a warrant out for his arrest, they could have found where his family was. Straight BS with the frowny face. We're also getting some love from our very own Uncle H. Uncle H is checking us out. He says, late but here. Thanks for turning me on to senior exercise at Randolph Community Center. Still sore AF from Friday's session.
You go on.
Yes, sir.
You go on.
I'm so glad it worked out for you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm so happy to hear that, Uncle H. Yes. And you know how Steph Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio for the very first time tonight. Looks like, John, you trying to double dutch in before I shift us?
Just one more thing.
What you got?
This is why black folks, we got to get that life insurance, because if the insurance company was going after them the way the Ben Crump and the family gonna go after them, also on the double take, things will move a lot different. Because now, Hit them in the pockets. Always follow the money, and you'll
Yeah,
find out what's going on.
I 100% co-sign that. Great point, John. Great point. All right, so shifting to my first time, well, not my first time tonight being corny, but certainly my first time with my corny line. I'm gonna say it. You ready for me? Here we go. Let us move on. We're going to move on to Stephisodes. Stephisodes tonight. We're digging into generational wealth. Yes. Let's get it.
But not necessarily the way you think,
Okay.
because everybody covers it the same way. And so all of this is going on with Trump, the case in New York, which I find fascinating because it hits at the core of this human. This human could care less about the cases that are attached to jail time, but who they are financially and what they've blown themselves up to be has been the thing that has established more and more wealth in the modern days. Like, you know, it's what got him on TV the way that it did and allowed for him to build up additional wealth post bankruptcies. Taking that money from that game show or whatever it was, what was it even called? I don't even remember.
The Apprentice.
Okay, the Apprentice.
The Apprentice.
Yeah. After The Apprentice, it gave him a certain amount of capital, but more importantly, it gave him additional cachet. So we all know that generational wealth, just basically financial assets, passed down through family, generation to generation. It could be anything from cash to investments to life insurance, property. When people talk about generational wealth, sometimes I think they overstate it and make it sound like it has to start with something so much bigger. You're never going to be there are people who are almost the American aristocrats, the Delano family, which is Franklin Delano Roosevelt's family, people like that. Then you have the nouveau riche, like the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. They were the nouveau riche of their time. And then there's everybody else. And of course, you have the nouveau riche of today, which would be the Bezos and the Gates and so on. And their wealth is never going to be touched. The country and the way that everything is set up is to really prevent that intentionally. And watching Trump, I realized that it is more generational wealth for these people is inclusive of the things that we often don't think about. We often talk about it, and when I say we, I'll talk about how it's a trend for Black people to talk about generational wealth. It really is. It's been a trend. It's become a trend, and it's often spoken about from the perspective of building enough for your children to have something, and so on and so forth. And by the way, historically, wealth ends typically in 3 generations, just like it's usually built that way. So typically, you have the driver of the wealth, the manager of the wealth, and then the squanderer of the wealth. That's generationally typically how it works. Now, on the other side of that, people are now looking at it and they're saying, okay, well, I want generational wealth. So it takes 3 generations for it to be basically classified that way. You can look at the people now and see, like, if they don't squander it or do something crazy, most people are going to think about someone like Beyonce and Jay-Z talking about, my children's children are already wealthy and things like that. Fine. But what I watch in the wealthy white upper class or the reigning class here, like Trump, what I've picked up from his trial is a part of generational wealth that we never focus on and that often will limit us, and it is access. He's not fighting for just money. He's fighting because that money allowed them access. He's fighting because of the rooms it put him in, but he's also fighting to make sure that access is not taken away from the people after him. No matter how narcissistic he is, it matters to him that that name is going to buy access, is going to buy space in the room. And those are the areas often where we don't focus on generational wealth because it takes a certain level of education and maneuvering that is bigger than just purchasing something. I can purchase life insurance. I have life insurance, enough. policy so that if something happens to me today, my children have something. I also have set it up where I'm not concerned about being buried in some ridiculous, show of wealth that I don't need shown for my death. I would rather my children take the money that comes from a life insurance policy, invest it in other things, and have that tax-free access to money. However, I and other people who might come from what you would call the educated class, right? There's working class people, middle class, usually upper middle class, who have a significant amount of education. Also, when you go out in the world, you recognize that access is just as important. Proximity to wealth is just as important. It becomes a generational asset. So being able to pick up the phone and make a connection with someone for small or big favors, or to be able to sit in the room with the people who understand where to make investments that are going to be avoidant of inflation at that period of time, being able to sit in the room with those people is just as valuable. It's why you watch Michael Cohen willing to go to prison, because what he was protecting was his access and proximity to someone else's wealth. He's a wealthy person, but he recognizes that his wealth has to be used for access. And so I started thinking about where we as a people, outside of the things that we seem to be struggling to get, I would say it should not be a struggle for you to get insurance. It really just absolutely, you can get insurance tons of ways. That is a no-brainer. I'm not even going to discuss it. John's covered it. I'm sure plenty of you have been called about it. That's a no-brainer. It's going to be a lot harder for you to amass financial cash, liquid wealth in the state of the economy today. However, it is never, ever inaccessible to have education. You can always have it. And I recognize that sometimes within our community, we're not protecting or promoting education in a certain way. And most people will think that I'm talking about degrees. I'm not. It's important. Going to college does something. It gives you access to other people, depending on the college you go to. Going to PWIs, I had access to a lot of people. I've never, ever, ever lacked for access to employment or building my business. A business creates assets. Those assets can be passed on. Going to PWIs put me in the room with girls whose fathers had been for years wealthy, self-employed individuals, come from wealthy families, so on and so forth. It gave me access to people I may not have met. Being in certain groupings like Jack and Jill and environments like that, additional access. That access translates into building your book of wealth. It's some of those things are going to be what we call intangibles. So tangibles are the things you can put your hands on, intangible, the things you cannot. If you're listening right now, it's important to understand the things that create intangible wealth or access to wealth that is very hard to come by, but can immediately change your status. I'll give you an example. There was a young Black woman, and she was talking about this birthday party she threw for herself. She's 35 years old. She threw what most people would consider a very extravagant birthday party, maybe an $80,000 birthday party. And all of her friends showed up with extravagant gifts, Louis Vuitton, all of these things, Telfar, whatever you want to call it. And people in the comments were saying, where do you get friends like this? And this is a young Black woman. Where do you even get friends like this that will show up to your birthday and have these expensive shows of adoration for you? And she said, it's important for Black people to learn how to navigate spaces that have other access to wealth. She said, so most of my friends have parents who were well employed, whether it was by corporate America or individually. All of us then were exposed by being put in certain social groups, by being put in certain activities, by being put in certain schools. And then we all migrated together to college. And now we're all of us with this intellectual access, this access to experiences, the training that we'd been given. All of their parents had been putting them in financial training, financial education, rather than cutting them off from information in the household. They were exposing it to them. She said, so we all go to college together. She said, then we all end up in grad school together. We're all pointing each other in the different direction. This is who has this. This is who has that. She said, then we began to wealth share, not just financially, but informationally. She said, and along the way, we picked up a few friends who didn't come from our same social environments growing up, but they now had access to us. So we swept them up in the movement and so on and so on and so forth. And she said, and that's why I can throw that party and afford it, and my friends can afford to come. That's why I can decide that all of my friends and I want to go to Aruba together, and it's a non-issue, because from a very young age, the education they were given, not just again at college, but the education they were given became important enough that it was now a part of their environment. And again, I'm mentioning this because when you watch Trump is an indicator of white wealth, whether you like him or not. He's an indicator of how they think, exclusively cutting people out, being in the room. You know, my son's going to be mediocre. He's still going to go to Harvard. That only happens through access. Doesn't just happen through wealth. It happens through access. So I think it's important for us to, once you have the tangible assets, a little bit of cash and things like that, what are you doing with it to make it profoundly impactful for the next generations? What kind of network are you building? I have noticed very simple things. People will laugh. Stephanie, you love Starbucks. It's not necessarily that I love Starbucks, but from a very young age, I would go, and early on in my teens, I recognized that it was a space where people of a certain ilk came together and sat with a newspaper in front of them and shot the shit before they went off to work and talked about things. I've been in a Starbucks and overheard someone at another table talking about the stock market, talking about assets. I've met people there. I have been in, BNI, Business Network International, and the first thing people say was, "Well, let's meet up at Starbucks." It's a language. There is a language and a behavior associated with being in the room with people who understand assets and wealth. Where are you going? Where are you putting yourself? How are you networking when you're in the room? So I used to, when I had a small group here, I would take the young girls that we were doing edification training, and we were helping them learn how to have polite discourse, understand how to discuss certain things, know what's going on in the world, know what's happening around you. I would take them on a Wednesday, and we would go in the evening to Starbucks, and they would have to learn how to order their own drink in the same dialogue, because being a part of a space is also sounding like the space, and we often reject that and then wonder why we're not included. But it's important. How I speak when I'm with my girls, totally different than what's happening in corporate America. It's what's allowed me to build other parts of wealth, which is being able to pick up the phone and call people. And there are people in my phone, contacts in my phone, that help me make things happen when I don't have the assets, the liquid assets to do it. So my big challenge is, it doesn't mean much if it's just money. And economically, when we look at the landscape of the United States today, most people are not going to become wealthy. That's a pipe dream. But you can build around this, even the small assets you have, you can build a human network around it and other things. Again, that educational network for your children, so that they understand how to move in a room with people who truly are educated. And that's the other thing. It's that lack of network access is why Black people are often misled in educational spaces. They invest in things they shouldn't have. They get caught up in these MLMs. Never going to make you a millionaire. Stop it. But you've been in a room with other people who come from a impoverished background, may not have a poverty mindset. They may want something. They have low-level education. They're giving you low-level education. You're making moves off that, and then you're stunting your ability for your wealth to grow. So you do need access to those other spaces. Several ways that I would say doing that involves, if you live in a marginalized environment, you know, let's use our location. If you live in one of the courts and you don't want your children caught up in all of that, and you know you're doing the other things that you hope will turn into something later, a way to pad your generational wealth outside of the assets is take your child outside of where they go to school and put them in activities and put them in groups and social environments that are outside of that environment. Create a path of access to the people who have real wealth. You yourself, instead of just going to random Joe Bob and getting little bits and pieces of information, attend the meetings in Chesterfield County where they're talking about assets and financial wealth and things like that. What I have found is there are often people in that room that want to be the person that gives you the information. And we often, because of our proclivity to believe that everything is racist, we run from it. But there is that man in that room that's like, I like that you showed up. I like that you came here. Let me give you some education. I want to be a benefactor to you. I want to see you grow. The other thing you can do for your children is attend every meeting at the school, get to know the educators in the space, and ask those educators what you should be doing. I often find that we can become very defensive in our parenting mode. They ain't gonna tell me what to do with my child. They know more than you. There are people that know more than you, and it's not about child rearing, it's about development. So ask those instructors, and you know, listen, I did it. I said, you know, my son has a natural affinity for language. What do you recommend? I ended up getting him a Japanese tutor from VCU. And then we were like, oh, you're interested in Russian. Okay, great. I got him a private cello instructor because he was a cellist. Got him a private cellist instructor from VCU. Just because someone else was like, oh, I know someone. But if I wasn't in the room, putting myself in the room with the people who had natural access, and there is natural access. We live in the state that has the largest amount of generational historic wealth. The not the nouveau riche, the original aristocrats of the United States, the majority were here. If I ran down some of the names that you think of locally, their families have been here forever. Several presidents come from Virginia, their roots. So to get back to the thing I said about my son, when I started doing that, it took my son outside, even though we were living in a middle class environment. They had my kids are middle class kids, Clover Hill environment, right? I exposed them to the next level, and my son then became someone who he's a polyglot, speaks multiple languages, plays multiple instruments. It now is establishing for him a different pathway outside of me and his father and our life insurance policies and our investments and things like that. It's establishing his own path to generational wealth. And so I just challenge those of you who are listening, who have children, to think outside of the box. If you don't have $5,000 to put aside for this, that, and the other, there are other ways to invest in your family's wealth that no one will ever be able to take away. To be the poor guy who has a nice suit and can walk in the room and at least navigate it and network could lead him to the next level. And if you don't know about things like that, or you're listening and you have a child that you think could be talented in a certain area, you want introductions, or you're trying to find out how to get into those rooms, please reach out to me. You can reach me at my website, stephaniebryant.com. I am happy. That's not what I do for a living, but I am happy to assist with that.
Ain't no how Steppin, Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy and that radio. Shout out to July checking us out. She says checking in. Hello, you guys. Yeah. I actually like the spin. You were right. It's not where I thought it was going. You know, when you hear the phrase generational wealth, of course, logically you think about money, you think about cash, you know, and then of course, with the introduction into the topic coming in from the Trump situation, of course, you would think about it that way. But the more you spun that web, the more my wheels got to turn. Like, man, if I think about just me, you know, my generational wealth obvi- obviously ain't coming from a bank account, right? You know, but it'll come from the fact that I know a lot of people, right? And I can put my daughter in positions where she can be successful. She made a joke to me recently that she got her first job and she didn't need her mother or me to help her get it. Whereas her first job came through a family friend, her internship came from a family friend. The school she always wanted to go to is the school that her mother got her master's from. So watching it kind of unfurl that way and seeing potentially how she may take the bits and pieces of the things that I was able to give her, not monetarily, obviously, but not directly for the purposes of this, but
But it will create monetary opportunities for her
yeah,
and access.
this the access for me though.
Mhm.
That was the key to what you were saying that I took. It's the access. Cause see now she's got access to Dr. Andrews. You see what I'm saying? He's a friend of mine, but she don't need me to reach out to him no more. Now she got access to whatever network he wants to share with her. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And of course, she works for the museum district in hospitality. She got that through a direct connection with someone that's very close to me, my dear friend. Now she's got not only access to that dear friend, but she's got access to whatever the museum district can afford her and the people that she may meet in that environment. So if that I love this, like, it's like really opening up, examples of it in my mind. And obviously I'm just thinking about me in mind,
Yeah.
but it's such a bigger conversation because you bring a piece of you to your network and your network grows. Like Legacy in the Radio, how we celebrate our alumni.
Mhm.
That's generational wealth
Mhm.
in a sense, because all of us knows that we came up together. We family. So we got a notary here. We have someone that sells houses there. We got somebody that does this there.
You have that
Somebody that
generational
does
access.
this there. So yeah, I'm wide open with this. John, jump in here. What's your thoughts?
One, perfect. I'll say that for you, Steph. Perfect.
Thanks, Sean.
And as you were saying, I was thinking about when my life changed. I became a thinking about when my life changed. I became a member of the Brooklyn Boys Chorus,
Oh my goodness.
right? And so it put me in so many rooms and changed my whole posture, right? Just because I'm kid in elementary school, in the neighborhood school, and all that comes with that in the hood, and going into this. And the first thing we did in the chorus school was we went to Lake Placid, New York, same year of the Olympics. We went to
80,
Lake Placid,
right?
New York.
80,
Yeah, we went to Lake Placid, New York, and we had a summer camp there for 4 weeks. And I met all kind of people. We had camp counselors who were from other parts of the country, and they were part of like religious groups, like teen groups or whatever. But they were our counselors, and the woman who owned the place, and she had a story, and we learned about Lake Placid in the area, and I got to climb on Whiteface Mountain and just all this kind of access. Then moving forward, I got to be in the room and meet and have conversations as a young person with Joseph Papp.
Mm.
I got to meet and sing with Leontine Price. I got to meet and have conversations with Zubamida Seiju Ozawa, uh, uh, um, Leonard Bernstein's kids, right? Going to DC for the Kennedy Center Honors 10th anniversary, performing there, living in DC for 2 months, and meeting all these type of people, politicians and all kinds. And understanding how to be in that space, being told how to sit up straight.
That's right.
Don't interject. Learning how to not interject. Wait for a moment to come into a conversation, or don't just listen. If it's not, know the difference in a conversation that you can be a part of and one you need to just fall back from. Learning how to go to dinner and order, and all these kind of things that I did just from having to be, being in Lincoln Center, Carnegie Hall, and all these other major performing arts places and spaces, knowing how to dress, do all these kind of things. And again, networking, meeting these people, it's a great deal of how I was able to be different from all the other people around me, right? And when I was able to make decisions, right? A lot of people don't understand. We are some of the choices that we make, right? We're the sum of the choices we make. And when we make decisions and informed decisions, the more information we have, the more things we get to bounce it off of, the better. And the problem that most people have in the inner city in our communities is that they don't have a lot of points of reference to bounce anything off of. They have a very small group and a very limited source of information, so they can't bounce it off. They don't know, they don't know about the insurance. They don't understand how to build generational wealth. They don't understand how to properly socially network for the benefit of business networking. Even when you break down something so that they should understand, like Lionel Richie's daughter knowing who's the other girl, the DJ, the slim one? Paris Hilton bringing in Kardashian.
Yes.
Now who's the thing?
Yeah.
Kardashian. Through these networks. Through the access that you're talking about. So yeah, that's a beautiful piece.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to say this too, because often for us, when we're having these conversations, I would encourage our folk not to be too thin-skinned. So what I say when I'm referencing that is, we become resistant to access because we're resistant to being told what to do, and we think it's respectability politics and things like that. But it is so important for someone to want to say to you, hey, young man, sit up straight, or look that man in his eye when you speak to him. Or, I think about going to see my son graduate from Air Force boot camp. And then I'm thinking to myself, they're giving this he turned 18 at boot camp. They're giving this 18-year-old kid top secret security clearance, a desk at the NSA. I didn't trust this kid to clean his room. When I said clean your room, how are they gonna make this happen? Right? And I get there and I say, and this young man is gripping my hand firmly. Yes, ma'am. Looking me in my eye, and things like that. And so don't let your fear of correction, or the way you perceive the world sees you, don't let that get in the way of elevating your children. It's okay to look around and say, so-and-so elementary in this community is not good enough for my child. It's not doing what it should do. So I'm going to do the extra. Don't be afraid to say we can be better. Don't be afraid of that. I'll point it out to you. There are a ton of documentaries about white grifters, a ton of them. And do you know what they grift? They don't grift for the easy credit card scam that the youngs right now are doing. They're grifting for access. I'm going to pretend to be a Russian empress so I can be in a space in New York City. Literally, it's a story right now. They grift in a way that is about access. And that is because access tied to wealth leads to opportunities that can create the general wealth you might be seeking.
Ain't no half step. Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy Net Radio. Let's get a couple of comments in before we shift. Let's see. Our brother B, like the B that's on his hat. Our brother Brent from Taking Those Shorts podcast with Jay Grizzy. I was blessed to be able to join those rascals the other night. It was good to see you, brother. Thank you for having me. He says that was impactful. He's talking about the host episodes. Uncle H says, wow, John mentioned Leontine Price, still alive in her 90s, living in Baltimore with her brother, 96 years old. Leontine Price.
Wow.
Ain't no how Steph Marcus J live
Uncle
from
H always coming through with the
yeah.
historical value. I
Uncle
just love
Uncle
him.
H reminds us of who he is to us. He's an
Yes.
elder, and so he always has a way of putting the icing on our comments in a way that only an elder could do it.
Yeah.
And we are just so blessed to have access to you. And by all means, make no mistake, you in town till the spring, we got to take audience with you,
Yes.
Uncle Age, no question. And that means all of us. Ain't no ask Stephen Marcus J, but you know I might see you on the yoga bag. Ain't no ask Stephen Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy and that radio. All right, so we're going to shift. We're going to move into Green Talk. And after Green Talk, we got a couple of other things that we're going to get to. And one of them is the casino conversation that's going on here in Richmond. We want to make sure that we do have time to get that in, along with we know what tomorrow is. Tomorrow's election day. So we're going to get into all of that as we finish out the balance of the show. But up first, we're moving into Green Talk, and we're going to have a conversation about capitalism, what it really is, and value versus cost. Interesting topic, my brother. Before we get into it, Damon says generational wealth in the terms that you described, Steph B, is not something that the generation after us is focused on.
Bless you.
Excuse me. Thank you. He says is not something that the generation after us is focused on. I think it's difficult to see generational wealth mattering to a generation that believes they don't need to be in the room. They believe they are the room. And because they think they know everything, dropping knowledge. Great topic. Thank you, Damon. Appreciate you, bro. Let me make sure, John, before we move on. And we did get one more salutation. That salutation was simply one word, and that word was morning. And when we see morning, not good morning, just morning, when we see it, we know who says it, and we know how we respond. Good morning, Sue. Yeah, ain't no hostile Marcus J Live from NewDen Legacy in their radio. John, you have the con.
Thank you, sir. So we live in the United States of America, most of us anyway. And we often hear the term capitalist society. A lot of people don't understand what capitalism is or what it really is, right? So it's about a 60-40 split between economics and politics and how they intertwine. But what it directly has to do with, it has to do with a person being able to set their own margin, right? So what I mean by that is, if you have a widget, right? We don't know what the widget is. I don't know how you came about it. You made it, you thought of it, you bought it, you stole it. It doesn't matter. You're now in possession of the widget, right? And I don't know what it cost you. It could have cost you a penny, a nickel, $1, $100. It doesn't matter. You're going to have the ability in the capitalist system to set the price if you choose to sell. No one is going to be able to regulate your price. You're going to be able to capitalize on your ability to sell the widget. So a perfect example is sneakers, right? A lot of people, these sneakers, people pay thousands of dollars for them, at least hundreds, right? 2, 3. Sneakers cost about $6 to manufacture, right? So you manufacture a pair of sneakers for $6 and you sell them for $600, right? That's a markup. Most retail products go by 3 times plus 10%, meaning if an object costs you as a retailer $3, you're going to sell it for $9, but then you're going to tack on 10%, so you get $9.99, right? So a third of that goes back to repurchase. A third of that goes for profit. A third of that goes to pay the people, and the 10% helps cover other unforeseen issues. Now, in capitalist society, although we have certain laws in place to protect us from gross monopolies, people are allowed to set their own price. So that same widget I had that cost me $1, if I can get somebody to pay me $10,000 for it, then that's my good. And if you pay it, that's on you. And too often people want to demonize capitalism because it's like they feel they should be able to set the price, right? Or it should be a cap. Like if you pay $1 for something, you shouldn't be able to sell it for $1,000 or $10,000. That's kind of crazy. It's not, right? And the reason it's not is the second part of the thing: cost and value. You, as the consumer, get to determine how much it's worth to you, right? I got this card. If this card makes your hand in a $10 million bet, you be prepared to pay as much as $1 million for this card because it's going to make your hand. Didn't cost me anything. It was a gift to me. It might be value. It might be cost that the deck is $10. So this card might be 3 cents, right? So a 3 cents card, but it's, for you, its value is $1 million because it's going to make your hand for a $10 million bet. This is what makes this country, or the idea of this country, so appealing to people around the world. This is why they dig tunnels. This is why they fly in. This is why they do all this kind of stuff, because very rarely do you have this unimpeded access to capitalism where you can set a value on your widget, right? And if your widget is intellectual property, you have almost an unlimited resource, right? So being able to now we have the internet and social media where people are taking their intellectual property and monetizing it. But the problem with it is they're not really capitalizing because they're allowing the platform to determine the value of the cost of their widget. That needs to change. That needs to change in order to really make, and this is why we have new laws coming into play, because some people did see the flaw in that and they did start setting their own market. So now it's like, oh, we're going to shut down certain things and shut down OnlyFans. Oh, your Cash App and your Zelle and your Venmo, anything over 500 for the year, we're going to super tax you. Oh, we're going to have the Corporate Transparency Act, so you can't hide your money in a whole bunch of LLCs and stuff that don't have your name to it. Because if you don't have your name to it, we're going to put you in jail for up to 10 years or fine you $600 a day or a combination of the two. So understanding the principles of capitalism and how they apply, and knowing that you get to set the price on your widget, whatever it is your opportunity to, as Steph was saying, it's funny that, we go to this topic back to back, to get that first cash infusion, right? To be able to make yourself presentable, to have the suit, right? To have the suit to get into the room, to have the conversations, to be able to say, well, I got this widget, and have the people in the room. See, the widget don't matter what it is, right? The people in the room are not accustomed to paying anything less than $1,000 for anything. They don't buy toilet paper for under $1,000. So your widget, your 10-cent widget, it automatically, because of your audience, because of the room you're in, like Steph said, now it has a bottom level $1,000 price tag. That's capitalism. That's the American way.
And you know, I have Steppin Marcus J Live from NewDen Legacy and Radio. A couple of shout outs I need to get. Our brother B, Brent says, I immediately thought about the guy that bought the rights to a certain insulin and jacked the price up 1,000%. Then the market came out with the generic. Shout out to my brother Laurel is listening and checking us out. This is my yoga partner, y'all. We got a brother that comes and rocks with us, and I'm so happy and blessed to know him. And I'm happy to and blessed to share the mat with him. And I'm happy and blessed to see him rocking with us tonight here on the show. He opens up his salutation by saying peace to us, peace to us. He says, ugly system, but you know the system is working towards winning. It hurts the creative. So it definitely does. They jump in here, John.
One thing, certain things should not be a part of that system. Human life, medicine, education.
But keeping with Brent's point, obviously it is.
Yeah, but see, and that is where we cross a line. This is where we cross a line. And this is where I didn't get into the political aspects of it. Because again, I said it's about a 60-40 split. 40% of it is political. And the reason it's political is so that laws are enacted or reacted and different things are put in place so that people can do things like capitalize on human life, which is irresponsible. There's no way. Okay, right now in this country, cancer patients who have a discretionary $1 million can be cured, hands down. They have this ultrasound sonic therapy. They have the Dr. Green and her nanobites stuff. They have all kinds of things. They have all kind of blood transfusions, stem cell infusions, macronutrition and vitamin scans, all of these things that effectively fight and destroy cancer in the body, but it takes a whole lot of money. That's not going to be made available to you on any health network plan, period, full stop.
That's because the money is in trying to treat it and not in curing it.
Yeah, right. We want to keep it going.
Yeah,
we want to keep you alive.
That's the capitalism.
Long enough to keep buying this medicine. We don't want to cure you because we don't want. And in that, human life. Okay, you can't put a price tag on human vices because you just can't value it because you don't know what the person's gonna do tomorrow. You don't know who this person's gonna be a year from now, whose life they're gonna save, whose life they're gonna impact, whose life. So we gotta find a way to get out of the politics of it, take it back to its nature. And this is why we have monopoly laws. You can't line up certain companies that all work together and then do capitalism. That's illegal. It needs to be illegal for medicine, needs to be illegal for education, it needs to be illegal on a certain level for basic human shelter.
Ain't no half step Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy and that radio. So we got a special shout out that we just got and one that we're gonna have to return. Okay. So she said peace and I love y'all. She also says daycare and higher education is held hostage by capitalism and politics. Some things need a cap and regulation, but it's certainly not the capitalist way. She's so great. She's so outstanding, and she's my favorite, very favorite millennial who has a birthday coming up tomorrow. Shout out to my sister, my friend, Legacy in that radio alumni. Our sister, the legal Tamika Robinson, is checking us out. And
Hey,
please
sis.
know that there's so much love wrapped up in all this shade. But
That millennial comment.
yeah,
always
you
come
already
through.
know. But we got so much love for her. And we're
Yes.
so happy that you're checking us out. And you know, we appreciate you and happy birthday. You already know I'm gonna reach out to you tomorrow when your
Happy
birthday comes,
birthday.
but happy birthday. Blessed Earth Strong. All of the salutations. You absolutely deserve it.
Joyous solar return.
You got it. Let's see. Laurel says big government capitalism is bad for is bad for all that we want to be voting for the people. Is the government, they took that from us no matter what color. I can dig it. With tomorrow, of course, is a perfect segue, Laurel. Thank you. Perfect segue to the rest of the conversation. I'm gonna put two things on the floor. We're going to spend the next 15 or so minutes building on it, and then we're going to shift to close out the balance of the show. But basically what we want to talk next about is we obviously know that tomorrow is election day. Part of election day is voting not just for elected officials, but also voting for things that we may want to be a part of our cities, our towns, and that sort of thing. So, what we're going to talk about here in the next section is what's going on here in Richmond, Virginia, with this casino conversation, and how it plays into the fact that we've got election day tomorrow. So let me set that up. Now that I'm not like producing and rambling, I can actually put a thought together. Let's see. Yeah, Laurel, thank you, brother. He said this podcast is love. I appreciate you, brother. So I saw a poll. The poll said that Donald Trump is leading in 5 states and 5 swing states, important, very important states, right? And we know that the election for president is a year from now. But, and I don't say that I get scared, because I don't. Politics ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm very clear about that. Shout out to K-Dub. I say this all the time. Create the world you want to live in. Make your world so this bullshit don't affect you, because it's going to be fucked up no matter what. I remember 4 years ago, or yeah, 4 years ago, even five, what year are we now? 7 years ago and 3 years ago, I said, I don't want an octogenarian president. I said that when it was Trump and Hillary, and I've said it when it was Trump and Joe Biden. Now it looks like it's going to be Trump and Joe Biden again. Joe Biden's already in his 80s, and Donald Trump will be if he's elected. We can talk about, oh my God, y'all about to vote for Donald Trump again? Yes, that part. Yes, that part. But really, octogenarians as presidents, like, we really doing that? So that's on the table. If anybody wants any of that, by all means. But the real thing that I want to kind of talk about is local. What's going on right here in the capital city? 2 years ago, there was something on the ballot where we were able to vote for or against a casino coming to Richmond, Virginia. It was voted down. Didn't work out. It's back on the ballot. Back on the ballot for tomorrow. But here's what I want to bring up. We've got 2 different pieces of story here. Urban One is facing backlash. They're facing backlash over anti-Semitic and / racist comments aimed at casino critics. So there's 2 pieces here. I'm gonna throw these out here real quick, then we'll get the panel to discuss it. I'm getting this one from ABC News 8 here locally, here in Richmond. And I'm trying to swim through to get to the comment that I want. In one of the recorded clips from the November 1 show on the Box 99.5 in Richmond, host Preston Brown calls Paul Goldman, the director of No Means No Casino, quote, a Jew who's got the same trait as Judas. He then describes Goldman as a, quote, white Jew with the background of Judas. That's one. The other thing that yeah, we already laughing, right? The other thing that has made news is Praise 104.7 host Gary Flowers and Urban One founder Kathy Hughes can be heard talking about, quote, 2 Black Richmonds, comparing average citizens and the elite. In the October 18th clip, Hughes is heard then saying, you're saying we got house N-words and field N-words.
But she said, she actually said it.
Right. Yeah. And y'all already know me. I will say every other bad word except for that one. I'm not saying the N-word. I'll say fuck. I love fuck. Can you say fuck? Fuck. But I'm not gonna say the N-word. But apparently Kathy Hughes actually did say the actual.
She dropped it with she did hard R and then she did soft A.
Yeah, to make her point.
Yes.
She is heard addressing the cost of pushing the Richmond Grand Casino proposal in one of the posted clips, describing it as a waste. They spent more than $4 million on the project, on the pro casino campaign, which has cost nearly $10 million per the Virginia Public Access Project. Quote, I am so mad at this opposition. You know how much good I could have done. Hughes says, I've had to pay lawyers and accountants and lobbyists and make contributions to everybody I thought could influence. In one clip, Flowers calls out Alan Charles Shipman, an outspoken critic of the proposed casino, and advocate Chelsea Higgs Wise. Flowers said that he had asked Shipman for a sit down, claiming that he was being, quote, funded by the other side. It's disrespectful to us, to our heritage as people, to call us the N-word for opposing economic exploitation, is what Shipman told A News' Rosalind Wilson on Friday. They slandered and defamed my name, saying that I was paid by anti-casino pitch people, which is untrue. I never received money from anti-casino campaign, end quote. So here's what I will say about all of this. And then I'll turn it over to Steph and then to John. And then we'll kind of shift towards the final vestiges of the show. Here's what I will say. I don't like all this nastiness, this back and forth. This is the part that I don't like. I don't like politics. Richmond frustrates me because Richmond always seems to have this little brother complex. Every time there's an opportunity to do something big, there always ends up being some kind of grassroots reason why it shouldn't happen. And that frustrates me because being on I-95 in the middle of Charlotte and Philly and DC and between all of that and New York and all that, there's no reason, none, that Richmond shouldn't have a bigger footprint on a national consciousness. None. No reason. There's no reason why there aren't major sports teams here. There's no reason why there isn't a major coliseum here. No reason for it. Always a reason that it gets shot down. It was Navy Hill. They had their reasons for that. It was the baseball field for the baseball team that we claim that we want here. It was a reason for that. There was the casino 2 years. You had the people who wasn't for that. You got it coming up. I have no reason to think that it's going to pass tomorrow. So while there's this back and forth with the opposition versus the pro people, I could give a fuck about that. I don't care that y'all disagree. We disagreed 2 years ago, but it's gotten nasty. It's gotten nasty. Like, really, we calling people out their name over opposition over a project that, in my opinion, would be beneficial for not only the region, but the people in the neighborhoods. So there are those who will disagree with that. Fine. I'm not here to debate any of that. I'm not intending to. My whole point is we always got to be on the short end of the stick in this town. And when there's an opportunity to go big, we always end up coming up small. And that's what we do here. I got a problem with it. John, you got the cons. Steph, you'll take the last word.
There's a lot of issues with it. It boils down to the meat of what you were saying, though. There's old money here, right? New money, they don't want it here because it would devalue the money that's already here, right? So you can't have a whole bunch of money come into a town like Richmond and not upset the people who are here. There's a lot of negative parts to a casino, right? Increase in crime, displacement, just a whole bunch of inconvenience to, people moving around. I mean, it would be in Steph's backyard, like in messing up the whole town. You know what I mean? In construction, it's a lot of bad to it. But having that knowledge and that information allows for there to be set into play before it even happens, things to offset that. I mean, we already got casinos here. We just don't have like table games. We got Rosie's. Every other 7-Eleven got 6 gambling machines in it. Half of the corner stores or whatever we call them, convenience stores, have gambling machines in them. People go in there and gamble all the time. So I don't know that this casino one or whatever they're going to call it would have that same kind of impact because they already got gambling in the town. And it's not going to appeal to those people. It's going to appeal to hopefully what would be outside people. And when we think of Richmond, we think of ourselves on an island. But to be truthful, Richmond is Fredericksburg to Petersburg. That's really Richmond and everything involved in it. So as opposed to the 255,000 residents in Richmond city limits and the 500,000 or so in the greater Richmond, you're talking about well over 1 million people when you consider Fredericksburg to Petersburg. And these are the people who would be directly impacted by the financial gains brought in by having something like a casino. We need something big. I mean, would I rather it be a Great Wolf Lodge or an IKEA or like you said, a stadium or something? I would like for it to be all of that, right? But if what's on the table is a casino, we might need to go for it and just make sure that we make the most sincere and true efforts in uh, cutting off early some of the pitfalls. We're not going to be able to catch everything. There is going to be negative impact. We're going to have some problems, but try to set up as much as we can to address those problems and then start bringing in new money. We have our tourism is like non-existent in this town. And for us to be, like you said, we're on 95, we lead the 85, and we're the capital of the state. There's no reason why. I mean, even we should even have some kind of exemption from the 60-40 rule with the liquor and closing down at certain times. There's certain things that just won't happen in this town ever because they want to keep it. They want to keep it down low Dixie and they want to keep it old plantation tobacco money, right? And let's talk about that. I think there should be no way anybody in Virginia, much less Richmond, should be able to be called anti-Semitic when you got this is the home of Daughters of the Confederacy, and we down the road from Charlottesville, where the Jews will not replace us. So Richmond should be off the mark. Virginia in itself, but really Richmond should be off the market for anti-Semitism. Anybody saying anything, they know where it's coming from. We were the capital of the South, of the Confederacy. So that's how it is with me.
Steph, what say you?
Well, I'm the no vote. So, and I was the no vote last time, and not simply because it would specifically be in my proverbial backyard, but because Richmond hasn't proved. Well, first of all, I'll start this way. If you can't be 100% honest and transparent with me about your maneuverings, I'm gonna be a no. I'm going to be an easy no. What are you hiding? And why are you hiding it? If it's so great, be transparent. There were questions about the debt that would be created and who that debt was going to be assigned to. Now, I read the entire charter because it's important enough. And I don't just say no to things just on some top level stuff. I go deep with it because if I'm going to say yes, I want to understand why I'm saying yes. And I'm the same with no. So I read the entire charter and I came up with a no. So there's about $412 million worth of debt that will be created. If you read it in the charter, there's no designation of who's going to hold that debt. The new charter for something that was supposed to be majority minority owned, now it's 50-50. It will be owned by Colonial Downs, who has a history of anti-Blackness. So these, this idea that all of a sudden this is going to do something great and different for Black people without demonstrating what that great and different is, I'm not willing to sign on and say, okay, we'll see when it happens. Okay, well, once we do it, then we'll deal with this, that, and the other. I definitely think no one who wants this to pass should ever use Rosie's as an example. Rosie's had 20 police calls in the first 7 days of their opening. If you are using income, they promoted that electrician apprentices would make a minimum of $28 an hour. That's already the minimum in the state of Virginia for a casino. So none of the arguments were aligning. They're not falling into place. if someone says, I spent $10 million on attorneys and lobbyists and this, that, and the other, you're a capitalist, sweetie. Casinos, the house always win. You didn't do that for the city. You're doing this for you. And it's a terrible argument. And then kick it up a notch. The same people who are behind what will be now called the Grand Casino. I guess they thought changing the name would get over on the one part of Richmond that are idiots, the one part of Black Richmond that are not very smart, I guess. We're supposed to not know that this is the same referendum. It's just being brought back. But when these people brought into MGM, they cashed out and got their profit. They're already out of the MGM casino. They are no longer part of it. So what's to stop them from doing the very same bait and switch here, which is invest in this casino, make all of your money, pull out. We're left 100% with Colonial Downs, which is basically in the backyard of the Black neighborhoods of where it is, and is doing nothing for it. There's just too many unanswered questions. But what I found interesting, because I know both Alan Chipman and Chelsea Higgs Wise, neither of these people are bought and paid for. Chelsea primarily is the founder, is a leader at Marijuana Justice, which focuses on the now wrongful incarceration of Black people in a state that now makes weed legal. So she stands solidly. I may not agree with her on everything, but she has stood solidly and firmly in that space as a leader. Alan Chipman has been fully vested in Richmond politics and is for the people. And so to be so upset that these people, that someone said no to you, no means no. And then to get on radio and call these people what you call them. And by the way, the big apology from Mayor Stoney came for the anti-Semitism, because God forbid you can't offend this Jewish man, which, by the way, Paul Goldman, a good dude. So I'm not saying that they don't owe him an apology. But what I am saying is we had a Black mayor who would apologize for the anti-Semitism, but not apologize for using a racial slur against a brother and sister who have worked hard in this community for disenfranchised people. The same apology that you gave Paul Goldman, you owed Chelsea and you owed Alan. So that's problematic in itself. And then for Kathy Hughes to say, no means no. Who do you think we are, children? Let's be clear. You're mad that yes didn't mean yes. You're mad that you came back a second time with the same proposal and we're still saying no. You're mad that we're not being lemmings for your side of the argument. If I saw a really good quote. If I told you a multimillionaire who hides their financials, platforms anti-Semites, and attacks Black activists,
Donald Trump,
is coming to town to build a casino, how would you know I'm not talking about Donald Trump or Kathy Hughes? It's problematic. So here's my thing. I can afford to Instacart every day if I so choose. I'm not native to the market in which I live, which would be considered Blackwell, Manchester. I'm not native there. We all know that. I did not raise my children there. My children went to county schools. But in that space, there is a dereliction of duties as it applies to schooling and education and what they are implementing there. There's a dereliction of duties as it applies to what they should be doing for public housing in that environment. There's a dereliction of duties as it applies to being able to feed your children properly. There are no grocery stores. No grocery stores. If you don't have a car, there is nowhere for you to get grocery. There's nowhere for you to get healthy food anywhere within that market. If you're somebody who can afford to eat out all the time, you can do all of that. You can entertain yourself. There are no ways for the locals to take care of their families properly if they are of a certain financial demographic. And you want me to accept the casino first. You could have taken that $10 million if you love Richmond so much and invested it in that way. And then we could have talked about the casino. And that's how I feel about it.
Hey, I have Steppin with Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio. I put these comments up on the screen, but I want to read them because I want you guys to to hear them. I'm gonna read these comments. John, make your comment. I'll give Steph an opportunity to respond, and then we're going to shift to our final stage of the show. But our legal Tamika Robinson, glad to have you back, sis. She says, I don't see the increase in crime, but I'm concerned about displacement of people and good old eminent domain. I think those are just talking points, but I agree John Old Money is playing a strong part in this. What bothers me that most of the conversations like Kathy Hughes is having on the radio, some things should be said just amongst us. We as a people are horrible at public unity, and it's so ridiculous. That might be the comment of the night, really. I'm not eligible to vote on this, but but it's interesting the obvious changes in marketing and target audience. I felt the same way. Tamika and I are absolutely aligned on this. So, John, what you got?
First, Steph, is that Fresh Direct on Main the closest supermarket you have?
Basically.
And it's overpriced. It's not that it's not good. It's just decent market. It's a little overpriced. And if that's where you have to cross the river to get some food, that's messed up.
Food desert.
And
food desert.
I live in a food desert.
Food desert.
And I lived there intentionally, right? I chose that. I could have stayed in Chesterfield County. I chose it for other conveniences that mirror my life as an empty nester. But I live around a lot of children. And that is a detriment. And just to one other thing, casinos definitely increase crime. The studies have been done.
Right. So that's why I brought it up. So the also the thing, I don't disagree with any of your arguments. Wonderful argument. I'm still gonna go out and vote for. I have my reasons. But that area is being overdeveloped anyway, without any consideration for things like schools, supermarkets. Every 2 feet there's a new apartment development, condo, whatever, and it's like every time I look up I see less of the sky now. It feels like Brooklyn almost, the way they're building stuff over there, and they're not putting any markets, they're not building any schools, any playgrounds, anything like that. So that's a big issue we need to deal with on a local level with the city council, and we need to add some things into it to make the casino work. I spoke with Kathy Hughes personally when 2 years ago when the thing was up before, and I tried to get a point across that she was talking to the wrong people in the town. She was going out trying to get people, every day walking around. No, we have a old money and political structure here in Richmond that you need to contact and convince, because the regular everyday people not listening to you. They're going to listen to the pastor. They might listen to the radio
Pastors
person.
are pro casino, so.
Right, for the most part. But
16 of them showed up. The 16 leading,
right, but they weren't pushing at them directly. They were going to the people directly, and that was an issue. And they did some. I heard they did some luncheons that might have had some improprieties to it, but
I guess I'm like,
my point is the impact of the advertisement was directed through their own network, and it was directed at individual people, and those people didn't show up at the polls to do this thing. Now, being as election day, know what that makes today? You know what that makes today, Steph? Black Solidarity Day. You remember that?
Yeah.
You remember that, Vargas? You remember that?
Cool.
So just for people who don't know, just real quick, and we're gonna close out. Black Solidarity Day was established in like 68, I think, and it was a time where we would divest. Every day before election day, Black people would divest. No, go to work, don't go to school, don't go shopping, and then the next day go out and vote. That was the whole point of Black Solidarity, showing the impact that we would have if we removed ourselves from the system, the impact that it would have, so that people would court our vote more seriously. But as a kid, all we knew was that was the famous 4-day weekend. We was off Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and we loved it. And it was a big deal. It was a bigger deal as learning Swahili in New York. Black Solidarity Day. That was the thing.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, we got
no. I'm glad you brought that up. It was something that we talked about making sure that we got that on the record. Ain't no how Steppin, Marcus J, live from NewDen Legacy and that radio. Final thoughts, Steph?
Yeah, I just for me, I think it's always interesting that we talk about old money and power and so on and so forth, and then we say, forget the will of the people and don't go talk to the little people, talk to the big guy. And at the end of the day, this is going to directly impact in the most negative ways the little guy. Also, I think it's scary because a lot of the little people are being told that $55,000 a year moves you up a social class and so on and so forth. And that's the average.
No, it don't.
That's the average. That's the median high that they're promising in these positions. So, I would fight back against that and say the people on the ground are who should be spoken to, because they are the people who will have to live with it. She attacked Mr. U Crop, and I get it. You wanted to go and talk to him because you want your agenda passed, but at the end of the day, Mr. U Crop will not have to live with the true ramifications of what bringing a casino to town does. And I would also challenge anyone who is listening. I think one of the most important and overlooked elements of a very specific leader is his comments on capitalism, and it's Martin Luther King. And I would challenge many of you to go and read what he talked about, because he truly understood how capitalism often overruns the needs and wills and necessity of the people, and it becomes a true evil. And that's what we're seeing now in this entire process.
Ain't no hashtag Marcus J, live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio. That was outstanding. We abbreviated ourselves and we got through, and we knocked it out of the park. And I'm so proud of you guys, and I'm so happy to be able to do this with y'all. Ain't no hashtag Marcus J, live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio. All right, so let us look to our moment in Black history. And this is the photo of the person that we are going to be profiling. So she was born in Delta, Louisiana, raised on farms there and in Mississippi, married by age 14 and widowed by 20. She went on to become a successful hair and cosmetics entrepreneur. And by the early 20th century, the richest self-made woman in America. Yet she saw her personal wealth as not an end in itself, but a means to help promote and expand economic opportunities for others, especially Black people. She took great pride in the profitable employment and alternative to domestic labor that her company afforded many thousands of Black women who worked as commissioned agents. She was also well known for her philanthropy, supporting Black educational and social institutions from the national to the grassroots level. Her daughter, Alayla, carried on this tradition, opening her mother's and her homes to writers and artists of the emergent Harlem Renaissance and becoming a catalytic figure in the movement. Born 1867, transitioned to the next life in 1919. Tonight, we celebrate and we thank Madam C.J. Walker for her contributions. Yeah. And you know how Steph Marcus J, live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio. That's actually one of my favorite parts of the show. And I immediately shift us to, without question, my least favorite part of the show, where we go to our missing children and we try to see about looking for these children. So tonight we've got two. First, we're looking for Isis Annette Rashetta Neal, missing since November 1st, out of Henrico. She's a 14-year-old Black female. Isis has a scar above her left eye and burn marks on both thighs. She requires medication and may be in the need of medical attention. If you've seen Isis Annette Rashetta Neal, please contact the Henrico County Police Department at 804-5000. 804-5000. We're also looking for Amari Malachi Morris, missing since October 30th, last Monday. He's 15. Amari was last seen on Chamberlain Avenue here in the capital city, wearing black and purple Jordans, black jeans, white t-shirt, black and white hoodie. His hair is styled in dreadlocks. He has a tattoo on his right arm. If you've seen Amari Malachi Morris, please contact the Richmond City Police Department at 804-646-5100. So let us recap. We're looking for Isis, Annette, Rashetta Neal. We're looking for Amari Malachi Morris. If you've seen them, please contact the National Center for Missing and or Exploited Children on their website, missingkids.org, or contact them by phone at 1-800-THE-LOST, 1-800-843-5678. Always seems like a perfect opportunity to make sure we mention the names of the two young ladies who we will always look for. We don't profile them every week, but we have made a concerted effort and a conscious decision to profile them regularly here on the show. So first, out of Greensboro, Tiara Kasig Williams has been missing since January 7th, 2016. 19-year-old black female at the time of her disappearance. She is 5'5", weighs 120 pounds. She's missing out of Greensboro, North Carolina. If you've seen her, please contact the Greensboro Police Department at 336-373-2222. We're also looking for, right here in the Richmond, Virginia area, our dear sister Keisha Jacobs, who was 21 years old when she went missing in September of 2016. Last seen in the 3100 block of East Broad Street in Churchill near Chimborazo Park. Last seen in basketball shorts, pink and black Nike shoes, and a pink scarf. If you have seen her, please contact the Major Crimes Detective William Thompson at 804-646-3925. Or if you've seen any of our missing children and you don't have access to the phone numbers that I just gave you, please contact your local authorities. Ain't no how Steppin Marcus J, live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio. Let's see, there's one more comment in here that I need to get to. Let's see. I can't find it. I'll come back to it. Ain't no how Steppin Marcus J, live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio. All right, so we got some affirmations. Let's get through our affirmations, and then we'll get to our rants and our closings. And John, you got yours up? Let's take a look. What's your affirmation, bro?
Today I am curious. Today I will open my mind and explore new possibilities and opportunities. Sometimes the script in this is difficult for me to read without my glasses.
Received, brother. Received. Steph, what does your affirmation say?
Today, I feel optimistic. Today, I will see the beauty and goodness in the hearts of every person I interact with.
And I'll get a comment in before I read mine. Our brother Brent says, Madam C.J. Walker once worked for Annie Malone in her cosmetic company. Interesting tidbit. Thank you for sharing. My affirmation says, today I am ready to receive love. Today I am open to being loved by another healthy person. I could dig that. Love me, y'all, because I certainly love y'all. Ain't no hashtag Marcus J. Live from NewDen Legacy in the radio. All right, so John, this is the part of the show where you share your rant and your closing. And I'm very interested in hearing what you have to say, as I usually am at this time of the show. So thank you for your wisdom and your contribution. And one more comment. One more comment. Our sister Michelle just checked in, y'all. Yeah. Hey, look. Yeah, you make me. Hey, look. There ain't a lot of people make me blush now, Michelle. Ain't a lot of people make me blush now.
That's true.
Yeah, mostly because it is pretty chocolate skin. Like, you can't see it.
You know what?
Little vanity never hurt nobody, especially when my tongue is firmly in my cheek when I disseminate
Love it.
said vanity. Michelle says, just in time for the rants. Hey, y'all. Or should I say affirmation as well? And then she says the part that made me smile. She said, love you, Marcus.
What?
Yeah, she said, love you, Marcus. Hey, girl,
Okay.
hey. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate you.
Cute.
And I got one more comment that just came through. I just saw it. And it says, love you, brother Marcus J. Want to know who said love you, brother Marcus J? Brother Pops J.
Oh.
Yeah,
Hey,
man.
Pops J.
My daddy in here, y'all.
Oh.
Come on, man. Peace to you, Pops, man. I love you, man. I'm so happy he listening.
That's sweet.
Yeah, it just gave me a big old smile. Now I got to be right.
Yes, you bring your shoulders back.
You know, I do right.
Sit upright.
Do myself right. Anyway, John, I got all of that like silly shit out my system. Now it's time for you to rap, bro. What you got, man?
I had a few things on my mind I was gonna close with, and I changed my mind because they had too much. I don't want to say negative, but counter. I don't know what to call it. Disagreeable. I don't know, but it just didn't sit right with me. So my closing, I'm gonna make it short and sweet. I'm back in business, y'all. So we getting ready to go into a new year, tax season. A lot of y'all file your tax. I get y'all money. Please come see me. Please come see me. Don't blow it. Don't blow it on the chain. Don't get a new car. Don't come see me. Right? Come see me. I'm setting up LLCs, trusts. I'm helping people with establishing bank accounts. I have 5 different lenders prepared to give you business funding. If you have a business and a reasonable credit score, I got about $500,000 in business funding for you. If your credit's not right, I got a few people in line that can get you where you need to be. If it's right, I can tell you how to manage it and make your credit profitable for you. Right? All of these services are available. John A. Green Consulting is open for business again. Get with me, 718-288-2200. Check me on social medias, John A. Green Consulting. That's my closing.
My man. Ain't no hashtag Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio. Steph, it's your turn. It's time for you to share your final word. And I can't wait to hear what you got to say.
So I'm like John, I had a lot in my head, but I'm gonna keep it really with something a little personal. So this weekend, my family was here for a funeral of a relative, and I didn't know that this relative lived here. But it was interesting to kind of watch, and I don't see my grandmother much, who raised me, as much as I would like to. And as I was watching these people, I was thinking, I can really be proud of who I come from. I can really be proud of who I come from, and I could see a direct link to what I come from. It's kind of what triggered my Stephisodes. So, my grandmother's sister-in-law was present, and she's 99. Looked great. Looked great. I walked up, I said, hey, then I went early on today, and I said hello, and I spoke to her, and she looked at me, and she right away knew, she knew who I was. My grandmother said, you remember? And she goes, of course I know, I know Stephanie. And she said, oh, you're looking good. She said, you're looking real young. You're looking real young. And I don't know. I was like, you know what? I'm just trying to treat myself well so I can do what you're doing. I mean, 99, I'll take it, And she said, well, Lord willing, you'll see it. And it was just that simple for her. It wasn't a whole bunch of complication, right? And I had been watching my grandmother over the past few days, this weekend that they were here. I got to see 3. My grandmother had a lot of children. more than 10, more than 12. And this aunt her sister-in-law, also, she had 12 children. And so they raised a lot of children together. And then I got to see that, I had 3 of my grandmother's children were here with their spouses. And it really reminded me and made me think about the wealth I have been given. I might not be sitting on $1 million pot of gold, but I have the benefit of um, grandparents who raised children, who got married, who stayed in those marriages, not just to make it work, but because they truly love one another. They see value in one another, because my uncles are men of honor who honor their wives the way their father honored their mother. And I got to hear the elders talking, and one of my uncles said, the minute he saw me, and this is my uncle's Army veteran, a sergeant, and always was a tough dude when I was growing up. Like, when he would come home to visit, my cousins and I would be like, "Oh man," because he had rules. He was structured. My uncle Julius, and I walked into they were staying at the Hilton, and I walked into the bar area where he was just sitting with his wife, and he says, "Steph B, that's what they calling you now, huh?" and he said, politics and opinions, and he told me he used to listen to Hustler's Hive, and he said, "Yeah, I would always listen to you." And he's caught Legacy, he's caught us, and we sat there over dinner, all of us just having a casual dinner because they had all arrived late, and we talked politics, we talked about Richmond politics, we talked about the casino, and I'm looking at these people who were a part of my upbringing, because when you're raised by your grandparents the way I was, everybody's a part of your upbringing. All of the aunts and uncles have opinions because you're being raised by their parents. And these people are looking at me and seeing my adulthood reflected in a way that I could tell they were proud of and that they were pleased with, and they were having vigorous conversation with me. And it didn't do anything for my ego. It did everything for my heart. It did everything that I could sit back and say, my grandmother and grandfather saw so much value in me that they spent a lot of money sending me to private schools. I came out of private school, high school, with a better education than some people come out of 4 years of college. I was prepared to move forward. I was prepared for corporate America. I was prepared to launch the business. And there are moments where, as I'm writing a book about my mother, I would have these moments of melancholy of what I didn't have, of what wasn't present, of what I may have lost, or what I didn't experience with my parents. And this was a great reminder of everything that I did get from these people, because I'm a Black woman and I know enough Black people who haven't gotten a quarter of what I've gotten. I know enough Black people who wish they were raised the way I was raised, who wish that they were raised with the discipline I was raised with, the upbringing that these people gave me, particularly my grandparents, and then my uncles and aunts pouring into me as a part of the village that really was raising me. These people prepared me, although it was a crazy decision, to be an 18-year-old bride and then a mother of 2 before the age of 22, and to raise 2 good humans. When I look at my children, I can say it's because of the wealth of information and discipline and knowledge that was given to me by these people. And so if any of them are listening, I just want to say thank you, because seeing them was a reminder. It also was a reminder of the things I still want. I know I'm the raging feminist on the show, but love matters, and having a loving partner and someone who provides for you and to you. I could see my uncles and my aunts and how they cherish one another, in the sense of not moving without knowing what the other is doing. providing space and safety and comfort. My Uncle Wayne, how he took care, he brought down all the women. So he brought his wife, he brought his mother, and he brought his sister along, all the way down here. And they didn't have to worry about anything because a true man was in their midst. A true man was in their midst. And I watched my Uncle Julius with his wife, and he took her to Southern Kitchen for dinner. And, and then he's talking to his brothers about dinner. Y'all need to come over here. And, then I watched my Aunt Desiree, who is my aunt by marriage, taking care of my Uncle John, who had some health issues. Those things, if you're listening, if you're within the sound of my voice, I know we often make decisions based on what is best for us. But as you're rearing children, as you're raising the people around you, as you're living within a community and you see the people around you, just think about what you didn't get and how that impacted you. And then think about what I'm saying now and about what I did get and how it impacted me. I would not have made it even a quarter of the way if I didn't see the love, the concern, sometimes the discipline that occurred within that space. And so I just proudly say that I am so emphatically pleased with the generational wealth that was poured into me. And if you have a moment, go back to my Stephisodes today. It doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be private schooling. It has to be consistently given in the form of love, of education, of knowledge, of listening. And even for those of you who get to be the elders now, like now, they made me look forward to being an elder this weekend. They made me look forward to being an elder because I was like, oh, one day I will have my younger cousins sitting here and my cousins' children sitting here, and they'll be listening to us talk about our experiences. But if we don't hold on to what was given to us, we will be that third level of generational wealth, which usually means it's squandered. So it was driven for you by Pops J. It was driven to you by your parents. It was driven to me by my grandparents and aunts and uncles. And now it's my job to manage this wealth. And then it's my job to pass it forward and teach the next generation not to squander it. And that's my rant.
Ain't no hashtag Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy and that radio. I have the unfortunate responsibility of following you two when it comes to the rants. You guys brought it today, and I'm very honored and proud to say that I get to do this show with y'all, with John, with Steph, because I'm full. I'm full by that. I'll get into my rant, and you know how I get. I can be a bit emotional when it comes to certain things, and my rant is somewhat emotional, but I'm gonna stick my tongue in my cheek and have some little fun with it as well. Before that, I'll get a couple of final shout outs, and then I will close us out. My big sister Kim is checking us out. She's in New Jersey. And she says there's nothing better than nurturing, loving, mature, and wise parenting. God bless you and your family. That's what my big sister Kim just said.
Thank you for that.
That's what our big sister Kim just said. Laurel says that part because his comment came right after that. And it says that part. You know, when someone says that part, we know that is a grand endorsement of what was just said. Ditto. Word is bond, you know. And then Michelle says, Steph, you know I approve this message. Yeah. Ain't no I Steph Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio. So while it's a challenge to follow you all, I am tasked with doing it, and I will do my best at it. I want to talk about changing your mind. Sometimes you can change your mind and people will look at you crazy. Sometimes you change your mind because you've gotten more information. As people, we should be able to change our mind without feeling a way. Whenever we acquire more information or whenever we recalibrate our thought process on something, whenever we gain more information, the grown-up thing, the mature thing, the wise thing is to calibrate how you feel with all the information and change your mind if you need to change your mind. What you said yesterday may not apply to how you feel today. You might completely reject how you felt about said topic yesterday. And you could have been really strong in your opinion. You could have been arguing that point to the point of fisticuffs. But today, you've garnered more information. So you've changed your mind. Now, perhaps if you found yourself near fisticuffs, there might be some apologies that may need to be given. But for the point of the conversation that I'm having, we should feel empowered. We should feel intelligent. We should feel wise to change our mind whenever we feel the need to change our mind. Which brings me to me in a situation where I've had to change my mind. Back in the summer of 2010, before Legacy Internet Radio, before Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J, even before the Green Room, I had some very, very strong opinions about someone. And I changed my mind. This person really upset me. This person went to Connecticut, set up shop, let the whole world know I'm going to be in Connecticut and I'm going to tell you about my decision. And those of us who rooted for the basketball team, who had a connection to the state of Connecticut, were very excited about this person deciding to come to Connecticut to make his decision. We had parties. We invited the homies over. And we said, he gonna come to the Knicks. Yeah. And then he looked into the camera and he said, I'm gonna take my talents to South Beach. And I said, fuck him, fuck his fans, fuck Miami, and fuck the state of Florida. While we at it, fuck Cleveland. I called this man LaFraud. Couldn't call him by his name. Wasn't able. My stoicism, in my opinion, kept me from changing my mind. But with wisdom and a decade of greatness, of performance, of Hall of Fame level performance on the court for not one, not two, not three, and I'm gonna just say 18 more because I'm not going all through that to get to 21, y'all. Not doing that. For 21 seasons, this man has played basketball at prime level, prime level, prime level, prime level for more than half your life. So I'm here to say that it is okay to change your mind, because I've changed my mind about LeBron James, y'all. He's the GOAT. That's the Murr. Marcus is unrelated.
I ain't changed
ain't
mine.
got
Still
nothing
fuck
to
him.
do what we ain't here talking about today. Yeah, I held y'all hostage so I can indulge myself. That's what rants are for. Bye, y'all. Bye, y'all. Independence is key to building your legacy. I want to say peace, all the stars and all the squares. In abundance of water, fools and thirsty. Those are the words of Bob Marley, who you heard singing in the background. Authenticity has no competition. Celebrating 12 years of internet radio, live podcasting. I ain't changed my mind about that. We love doing this, and we're gonna continue doing it. We love y'all. You know, that's Steppin Marcus J live for NewDen Legacy of the radio. We gonna be back at another show. Holla at your family, y'all.
Oh yeah. I'm with this, with me. I'm just gonna lay back and I'm gonna drop some smooth lyrics. So tune in 7 to 9:30 and don't be late. About to set it straight. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Word. I'm ready. Let's go. Ain't no half stepping. That's the name of the show. Yeah. Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah. Hunters talk sprinkle with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you want to talk about? Call and we're hearing you. Cover all topics. Touch on the main issues. With the flow in this show, bring the heat. Yeah. The word on the street with the Earl on the beat. We superb in the beat legacy online. 7 to 9:30. Please be on time. Ain't no half steppers with Marcus J, my brother. Yeah. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. Brother so smart, plus brother got style. From Richmond, we on the mission. Before course, and listen up. This Marcus J start to talk, running back. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. From Richmond, we on the mission. Before course, and listen up. This Marcus J start to talk. That's the name of the show. Yeah. Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah. Hunters talk sprinkle with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you want to talk about? Call and we're hearing you. Cover all topics. Touch on the main issues. With the flow in this show, bring the heat. Yeah. The word on the street with the Earl on the beat. We superb in the beat legacy online. 7 to 9:30. Please be on time. Ain't no half steppers with Marcus J, my brother. Yeah. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. My brother so smart, plus brother got style. From Richmond, we on the mission. Before course, and listen up. This Marcus J start to talk.